Okay guys, another update on the drift situation. So I'm down in the garden tonight and I've got Dolly here helping me. What do you think, Dolly? And Deborah's here with me too. So we were, today we drove to northwest Brown County to visit a man regarding the incident. Had a good visit. Everybody's attempting to be as professional as they're able to, but this morning when the weather was cool, we were out here in our garden. We're in our garden. That's the sweet sorghum. And if you're noticing why these 4 south rows of the sweet sorghum look kind of pathetic, well, that was because we went sorghum on sorghum in those 4 rows. Shouldn't have done that, but that was just the way the garden shaped up this year. But anyway, that's the sweet sorghum that we pressed for sorghum syrup. This morning when it was cool, we were in the garden digging the potato crop for the year. Not a great crop, but it was adequate. And Deborah mentioned to me that something was going on in the tomatoes, and so we came over here. I came over here. I hadn't looked at them. I've been busy haying. You can see the last 2 weeks worth of work up on the hill there. I've been busy haying and doing other stuff. I hadn't been paying attention to the garden until it was time to dig potatoes, but came down here and looked at the tomatoes for the first time. And this is what we are seeing in the tomatoes. We did have the hot week last week. But one thing I want to say about our garden, and you know, those of you who are neighbors know this, but this was an old hog farm, and this was an old hog lot. You can tell the soil's color there even after it's been worked. You know, the soil is, try and stay out of the shadow here, the soil's dry, but you can see the texture of the soil. It's just, it's good dirt. That's why people like farming in Brown County. We did have an inch of rain since our last video, but there's something going on with the tomatoes. So honey, what are these, what are the 2 different types of tomatoes you plant here?
So one variety is a paste tomato that I use in all of our canning, and the other variety is a slicer that we use fresh. So generally, by this time of the year, our tomatoes are topping out the top of these cages. And I noticed a couple of weeks ago that they just stopped growing. Like I wasn't seeing the growth that we normally do. And the peppers as well. So these tomatoes were planted at the end of May. And they're just not growing. They're curling. The leaves are curling. We're probably not going to have a crop this year because traditionally I start canning in about 20 days and there will not be enough tomatoes to can anything.
So I was looking at this tomato down here on the end. Is this one of the slicer tomatoes?
That is a slicer. And you generally, this slicer by this time would be coming out over the top of the cage.
Would be flowing out of its cage.
Yeah, they're not going to grow anymore. Same with the peppers. The peppers stopped growing. They're tiny.
How long, when did the peppers get transplanted?
The end of May.
The end of May.
Yeah. So these would normally be big giant bushes, and I would have already harvested the first harvest of peppers off of them.
Well, there are a few peppers here.
Well, this is a jalapeno, so it's not bad.
I wonder if those are going to be hotter.
I don't know. It's a little bitty punch. These are Anaheims, which generally grow really big, and you can see they're not even putting on fruit.
So guys, when we were driving up to northwest Brown County, we were seeing huge fields with dicamba injury. And in conversation with the guy that we went to see, who carries an applicator license, it's pretty common knowledge that there is broad and widespread dicamba injury in the bean fields, at least in my part of the state. And if you drive down public highways, you don't have to drive very far before you see some substantial injury, whole fields with their leaves rolled. So anyway, that's what we got going on for the update now. We're still working on our situation, but like I said, I think I've said before, if not in the video, in the comments, this is kind of a slow moving train wreck, and we're just working to deal with it as best we can. Thanks, guys.